Historically, monetary policy in Nigeria has been in place since 1958 after the Central Bank of Nigeria was saddled with the responsibility of formulating and implementing monetary policy through the Central Bank Act of 1958. The term monetary policy refers to various measures put in place by the central bank to regulate the value, supply, and cost of money in the economy with a view to achieving the government's microeconomic objectives. In practice, it is basically meant to control inflation, maintain a healthy balance of payment position in order to safeguard the external value of national currency and promote adequate and sustainable levels of economic growth and development. It is usually implemented through the bank system and financial markets. With the inflation rate and national economic challenges that we are currently facing, can we say that the Nigerian monetary policy is effective? Today on the program, we shall be looking at the monetary policy and how it affects the nation's economy. Hello and thanks for joining us. I am Chana Ejoga. We'll be right back. Before we continue, up next is News Update.
The International Women's Day, marked on March 8 globally, is a day for celebrating the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. The day also marks a call to action for accelerating women's equality in national development. The theme for 2024 is Invest in Women, Accelerate Progress. In commemoration of the day, the Director General of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, Professor Ayo Omotayo, organized a platform to reflect and discuss on issues concerning women and to distribute sanitary pads to female staff of the NIPSS community.
The young people, let's still see what we can serve you before they go too far, believing that they are second class to men. Too many women, if I brought in the 40 years old, the 50 years old, there is nothing you can tell them. And I'm telling women, don't wait for a man. All of you are waiting that, okay, one man will come and find and marry me. I hate to hear that thing. Men don't sit saying that I'm waiting for one woman to find and marry me. But most of you girls, you go on with that. When push comes to shove, a man will marry me. That is how to be a second-class person.
While addressing the women at the event, which held at the Directorate of Research, Professor Linda Kwon Ndung, Chief Operating Officer of the Gender and Public Policy Studies Center, said the day was first established in 1910 but officially celebrated in 1911, and in 1975, the UN set aside the 8th of March to celebrate and chart a path towards ensuring sustainable development amongst women globally.
And I want to say to you that you're highly privileged because this afternoon, what the DG is doing is inspiring inclusion. Because to inspire inclusion means to be valued. So he has clearly demonstrated that you are valued as young ladies, and he has gathered you here to make you feel that you are indeed special. So this action is a gesture to ensure that you feel inspired.
The Director of Studies, NIPSS, and a frontliner in gender issues nationally and internationally, Professor Fomi Paramalam, MNI, in her remarks said the International Women's Day is an insightful and impactful celebration which brings to fore the disparity and disadvantages that comes with being a woman.
Women constitute 50% of the population, and that's 50% of Nigeria's human asset. Which company ignores 50% of its human assets? Only to its peril. So International Women's Day, especially for 2024, is about inspiring inclusion. And that means that we are trying to say, Nigeria, it's high time you make full use, empower, incapacitate and invest in 50% of your human assets. And I hope we can all work together to do that.
Also in attendance was the head Public Affairs Department, Professor Shola Adeyanju, MNI, who said women are to be respected in the society too, and further encouraged them to persevere in achieving their dreams. Sanitary pads were distributed to appreciate the physiology of the female gender.
For the DG, the Director General of NIPSS, to deem it worthy to celebrate young women working in the National Institute is very, very profound, and I think it is something other organizations and institutions to also invest in as well.
Over the years, the International Women's Day has served as a platform where women are encouraged and inspired to believe in their capabilities. It has served as a means of propelling women to aspire to attain the full potentials that they have. So I can say that over the years it has been a veritable tool in inspiring women to ensure gender equality in the society.
Vaku Ambi, reporting for NIPSS Policy TV.
Own your moments in South Africa this Easter holiday. Explore new holiday deals at southafrica.net. Come journey with us.
Welcome back. Now back to our topic. Monetary policy is one of the critical aspects of national development. A nation cannot experience sustainable economic growth when there is no price stability. By extension, monetary policy controls the nation's economy. For a nation to have a robust economy, special emphasis has to be given to it. In this two-part discussion, we have a professional who will shed more light on the topic. Enjoy. Thanks for joining us. This is Policy Focus. On the program today, we have an economist and CEO of Economic Associates in Lagos State. He was Vice Chairman, Technical Committee, National Council on Privatization, and also a member of the Governing Council of Ministry of Finance Incorporated. This is none other than Dr. Ayo Teriba. So I would like to go straight by asking you, the federal government has been managing the economy through different policies and strategies. How would you rate these policies so far?
The 8 years that we spent under the previous regime were 8 difficult years. You know, the previous president had met the exchange rate at about 160 to the dollar. 160 naira to the dollar, and left it at about 750 to the dollar on the parallel market, but was artificially kept at about 465 to the dollar on the official market. And of course, we had rising inflation. We have, of course, with that kind of devaluation and inflation, you have cost of living shocks, particularly food price shock and the energy price shock, part of which is globally inflicted. And we've had rising poverty levels. And of course, if you have a growing number of the population becoming poor, you have also had to grapple with rising insecurity levels, in which brothers that had lived together peacefully in times of plenty become hostile and aggressive to one another in times of want. It doesn't matter whether this is across tribes or within tribes. We've seen, you know, conflicts within tribes and, you know, in parts of Nigeria where same tribe, you know, militants and attack, their own, not even a threat to other tribes, but we've also seen cross-tribal increase in tensions. So difficult was the regime that they met, was the conditions that the regime met. Unfortunately, it's not just those economic conditions that were difficult. Policy realities were dire. Government needed to spend money to solve many of these problems, but government had no money. It's not only that government didn't have money, the little money they had, largely went on interest payments on debt. Debts are risen to, on sustainable levels. Seems that the previous regime has exhausted our borrowing capacity, both at home and abroad. It's not just that the fiscal situation was dire. The first point, the reason why exchange rate had been weak was that the reserve situation was dire as well. And the monetary policy situation was equally dire. So you have the central bank being helpless, about monetary policy in the face of exchange rate volatility, in the face of low reserves, to meet even its own obligations, and the fiscal authorities being helpless in the face of no revenue, weak ability to borrow. And that's the condition that the president and his team met when they came May 29. And so many of the policies they had announced in the past 7 months are therefore been crisis management responses. For example, getting into government and finding that the situation with the multiple exchange rate was not sustainable, they announced unification. Ideally, unification is like a surgery. It's a very simple surgical procedure, which required preoperative preparation. So whatever surgery a doctor wants to perform on a patient, even simple things like removal of a tooth, you need to assess the patient and assess vulnerabilities and prepare, to mitigate, likely fallouts from the surgery. So the situation they met, half expected, but didn't, fully, the full, desperation of the situation didn't dawn on them until they got there. So they had to embark on surgeries without adequate, conversations, adequate preparations, like the removal, the unification of the exchange rate, and the removal of the subsidy, which I think is a smaller part of the story. I think the biggest part of the story, from the point of view of how the multiple exchange rates was draining government of revenue. It was a massive leakage. So, and removing it had the beneficial effect that the revenue available to the government has increased. So they've ended the regime in which they subsidized some privileged few, by selling to them like half of the market rate. So everybody buys the forex and market data, including the importers of refined products. So I do think that foreign exchange unification is the main subsidy remover. So we did the unification, and it's dawned on us that the volatility increased, especially in the official window. I mean, the prior market or the Bureau de change window has been largely stable. Both lost value, but the Bureau de change had been relatively stable. It's the official window that jumps to 1,100 tomorrow, it drops back to 800 the day after, and then jumps back. And that reflects the reserve inadequacy. The problem is that perhaps is the only problem that Nigeria needs to worry about.
Really? How so?
Yes. because all of the other problems about consequences of volatile exchange rates. And the volatile exchange rate is the result of inadequate reserves. So one thing is needful, one thing that the Nigerian government needs to do to bring order, because we've had a raging battle with labor about how some of the reforms had eroded wages, and they want a new minimum wage. We've had debates about living costs, and the president had made a lot of, concessions, announcing series of supports for vulnerable groups, including SMEs, even workers. We've pledged to give them 35,000 naira a month for 6 months. Are we together? Yes. All those are consequences of a volatile exchange rate. So instead of accommodating 30 other problems, including things about pump price of petroleum products, the reason why pump prices will rise is if the naira exchange rate remains at 1,000. The only reason why we are debating cost-reflective tariff on gas and NEPA, etc., is because exchange rate is 9,000. And the tariffs are still where they were when we were talking 360, when we were talking 460. Are we together? So solve that one variable and you'll have solved 30 problems rather than trying to. So basically, what I've seen is that, yes, you commend the president for his sensitivity to the plight of Nigerians. He has said it, he has acted it, that he is not unmindful of the hardship that Nigerians have. But let's have a holistic, program-based approach, that looks at the feed-forward effects of these different elements to one another and pick the central variable that is likely to bring calm, to all else. So I would think that fixing the reserve situation to stabilize the exchange rate is the key problem that the government should solve. Then, if you stabilize the exchange rate, inflation will come down by itself. If you stabilize the exchange rate, much of the cost that rose will come down by themselves. A reference point was 2017, when the naira first crossed the 500 naira mark. It reached 510. And we managed to stabilize it back to 360. And inflation had surged when it traveled to 510. Over the next 18 months, when it came back to 360, inflation dropped steadily every 18 consecutive months. And it stayed as 360 from 2017 to 2020 when the pandemic broke out. So rather than solve 10 problems that have been created by the exchange, it's better to look for a way, of stabilizing the exchange rate. Basically, that's my view, that no government, no regime could have fully anticipated what the problems that they met. I think we need a holistic program. We should stop trying to solve problems in isolation of one another.
Okay, so the federal government has decided to remove the dichotomy between the official currency rate and the rate of black market, with the hope of addressing further sliding of the naira to foreign currency. How would you rate the implementation of this policy, sir?
There's no shortcut in this matter. It's a bit painful that the likes of Bloomberg is beginning to, describe our currency, the naira, as the third worst performing currency in 2023, after Lebanon and Argentina, because of the increased volatility that we saw in the second half. It was volatile before the takeover, and that's not complimentary. They've gone ahead to predict doom for 2024, that the experience that we had in 2023 will be a joke compared with what we are going to experience in 2024. And I say to them that that's unprofessional. Economists are not prophets. Economics don't give prophecies. Our forecasts are conditional forecasts that goes like, if you get reserves, then you will get better experience than you got in 2023. If you don't get reserves, then you cannot continue to do things the same way. A different outcome. And, it's like a slippery slope. You not acting in the last 7 months may not be as damaging as you not acting the next 6 months. Because you may then have converted, a temporary problem. That if a stitch in time saves 9. And if you didn't do that stitch in time, you convert a temporary problem to a permanent one because you trigger a crisis of confidence. So I do not agree, with anybody who is predicting, the Naira is at 1,000 now. It will be, somebody, I read one say 1,600 and something by the end of 20. Is absolutely wrong. You should be talking in terms of scenarios. That the no action scenario will not be better than our experience in 2023. But the positive action scenario, if we got reserves within the next month or 3 months, and the painful part is that unlike many other countries in the world, Nigeria is well placed to get reserves. If Nigeria wishes to get reserves, Nigeria is better placed than many other countries in that, like Kenya, in the same situation, is saying that it's going to list 35 of its government-owned companies in the stock market through IPOs, to raise equity, to privatize some of the shares that it owns in those companies. 5%, 2%, 3%, which was what Aramco did in 2019. It did 1.9% of Aramco, Saudi did. So Nigeria has companies. None of them is listed on any stock market anywhere in the world. It doesn't take you a year to list your companies. So if you do want to list your companies, we said we would list an NIPSS last June. That was Buhari regime. And then they didn't do it. So you can say over the next 3 months, all of you go and get listed. The advantage of they getting listed, instead of you going to borrow for 5 years against crude, any of those companies with known market values becomes a financial asset that you can securitize. Are we together? That's one. Number two, you not only own companies, you own real estate, choice real estate, all over the country. I mean, NIPSS owns 2,000, 3,000 premises, police own 2,000 premises. The military holds barracks in prime places. The correctional agencies hold prisons in prime places. It doesn't take you time to decide to relocate some of those activities that are nothing on prime location to more economic sites and free these commercial spaces to raise revenue for the country. Are we together? We have infrastructure. So I'm identifying 3 assets that you can use to raise domestic investment, foreign investment, diaspora investment. And the third are infrastructure. they are going to start by saying, if I could do this road, pass through this place, this place, this place, I can unlock 10 trillion naira. And they only need 2 trillion to build them, which is how, over the last 1 decade, prison facilities in England, all inner city prisons have been relocated. They said, they woke up and realized it didn't make sense. That was around 2010. To keep prison in inner cities. So they moved them to more economic locations, and they freed those prime locations. Luxury flats, luxury hotels, offices, shopping, and the rest of it. And this budgeted 1.4 billion pounds for the, prison relocation and redevelopment, exercise. They didn't disclose how much spending 1.4 billion pounds is going to fetch them. But they said that the revenue they get from it, they're going to use it to reduce the national debt.
Okay, sir, recently the budget has been passed and signed into law. What would you consider as the high and the lows of the budget?
One of the highs of the budget is that the Tinubu-Shettima regime, in their first 7 months in office, seem to have solved the low revenue problem that crippled the Buhari regime in the preceding 8 years. President Buhari met a 4 trillion naira revenue in 2015, and his peak revenue was 7 trillion in 2022. So in 7 years, he increased revenue by 75%. Although the exchange rate had increased from 160 to 465. So the exchange rate has increased threefold, but revenue had not even doubled. Are we together? Which was why he resorted to heavy borrowing. And the evidence that that was the situation met by the by the Tinubu regime was, if you look at the MTF, when it was approved, it captured actual revenue until July. And the country had made 5 trillion as of July. So 5 trillion in 7 months translates to about 700 billion per month run rate. But by the time the reforms, the leakage blockage that the Tinubu courageously put in place, like the unification of the foreign exchange in particular, by September, that 5 trillion was a 20% shortfall on what they are targeted to have raised in July. By September, it has risen to 8.6 trillion. So which means in 2 months, we have added about 3.6 trillion. And we have overshot the target that they had anticipated for September by 4%. And that's the premise of the 18 trillion that is projected. Also, is, the average for those 2 months has risen from the 700 billion to like 1.8 trillion per month. And if you do even 1.5 trillion per month next year, you get your 18 trillion. And the Senate increased the revenue projection to 19.2 trillion. So they managed, through the blockage of leakage, to solve the revenue problem. Don't, exaggerate the gains. At least it has made revenue to nearly keep pace with the exchange rate, even at the current exchange, because if 18 trillion today at 1,000 to the dollar will be 18 billion. Whereas the 4 billion that Mr. Jonathan left, that Mr. Buhari took over, divided by 160 would have been $25 billion. So even your 18 trillion is still, but if it's 800, we don't know what the reality will be for next year. It could be 800, like the Senate, said it will be, then it will be 22 billion. So at least we've managed to do revenue reforms that is taking us back to the trend that we were on before. And you never know, they could block more leakages and it could still yet be better. So that's what celebrating. So for the first time, we would have adequate revenue cover for all recurrent headings, more or less. Debt and non-debt. Okay? At 19 trillion. And so that's one high point. The other high point is that the regime has really stopped borrowing. I don't know if it's that they want to borrow, but they couldn't find to borrow because the other regime had borrowed to the limit. But the good news is that their borrowing footprint, has become more moderate. And they had raised the hopes of Nigerians that instead of borrowing, they will raise domestic direct investment, they will raise foreign direct investment, they will raise diaspora investment, they will raise, enter into public-private partnership. Because if you cover the current spending with 19 trillion, you have a 28 trillion.
Own your moments in South Africa this Easter holiday. Explore new holiday deals at southafrica.net. Come journey with us.
Our guest to discuss our topic, monetary policy, is Dr. Uche Olowu Emenai, past president and chairman of council, Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, CIBN. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thank you. It's my pleasure for having me.
All right. The federal government has been managing the economy through different policies and strategies. How would you rate these policies so far?
Well, thank you very much. You need to understand and appreciate when you're talking about the policies and all that, yes? What is the overarching mindset behind those policies? Let me put it that way. I think it's macroeconomic stability, basically. So there are various policies, reforms at, the basic thing is alignment of macro and fiscal, monetary and fiscal policies in order to create a stable macro environment. The essence being that without macroeconomic stability, there is not going to be any growth, no investment. You want to attract investment, private capital and all that. They want where there are no surprises. So there must be stable macroeconomic environment for, so those are the basic things. So in answering your question about how would I rate these policies? I want to mean that you are talking about this current administration.
Definitely.
So this current administration is reform-minded administration, no doubt about it, because they understand what it takes to do business, and so they know that market reforms, there need to be market reforms in order to, jumpstart growth in the economy. And so I will rate them very high because you can see that even World Bank and some other monetary authorities have rated Nigeria. Everybody is quite happy with what so far they have seen in terms of the reforms, because the reform is designed to jumpstart growth, to create employment, create wealth.
So it is very critical that they are on the right path. What are these reforms in terms of expanding the tax net? Very, very important, because our problem actually has been revenue challenge. And the fiscal policy needs to address those challenges. One is the issue of the fiscal space. Do they have a fiscal space? No. So you have to create that, expand that fiscal net. That is one. Then, of course, there are the issue of the costly petroleum subsidy that has taken away government revenue. And so that also are gone. Then the issue of the multiple exchange rate system that created, rent-seeking people to make a lot of profit out of, the commonwealth of our nation. That also gone. And so many other reforms that are coming up, especially in the consumer credit, if that comes up true. So these are all designed to, jumpstart and create wealth, growth for the economy. So for me, I will rate them high, but it's too early. It's too early. Let's see how the implementations are done, because one thing is strategy, but another is implementation. So it's very critical. But so far, they are in the right direction.
Okay, from your response now, these market reforms you talk about, so far, what has been the effect on our foreign exchange?
If you look at it, when you put up a policy in an economy like ours, it will take some gestation period. Because people want to say, okay, the implementation, the removal of the exchange rate, dual exchange rate system is supposed to design to create transparency in the foreign exchange market. Therefore, the rates should actually come down. But we have seen reverse. The rates have been going higher and higher. I want you to, but the point clearly is that medium term, you are going to see gradual, as the reform take root, you are going to see the exchange rate coming down. That one is very basic, because in an economic system, once you introduce a policy, there is usually a time lag. That lag will begin to experience better improvement in 2024. This 2024 is a threshold, is a watershed for us to see how the impact of this policy. So far, it has created some level of transparency in terms of this. Well, I think our major challenge, why you have not seen quite a lot of magnificent, is because of supply problem. We have supply issues in terms of the foreign exchange. And that's why government has, been trying to see how they can improve market liquidity so as to improve the exchange rate. So you can see that once the inflows come, they are releasing in tranches from Afrexim, from the World Bank, they come into the market, you expect that it will create some kind of confidence. People will not rush to go and purchase foreign exchange. And then also leakages, where people, if they share fact today, people go to buy foreign exchange, because that confidence, lack of confidence is there. So by the time these programs are, create that confidence, you see that the Naira will stabilize at a better exchange rate.
Keep watching.
Keep watching.
Keep watching NIPSS Policy TV.
They should reduce the price of the cost of fuel. That's the major one. If they can reduce the cost of fuel to even 300, 350, at least the small medium scales can grow up.
30-something thousand, palm oil 30-something thousand, rice bag, Nigeria rice 40-something thousand, on stone on ma is about 80-something thousand. We don't know where it is going on for Nigeria.
Issue of a small scale business is very important, and people need to be encouraged. Government can find a way of giving to, providing people with small, money I think that one can encourage people. Any small scale business, you can provide them with like 50,000, 100,000. You know, it can go a long way. It can make the people to have something to do for themselves, because government cannot provide job for everybody.
It has been hard all this while because things have increased seriously. You go to market today, you see the price of things are different. Tomorrow, the same thing, foods are just in an increase. And mostly when you ask them, they will be telling you that it's the issue of fuel. So we are pleading to the government so that at least they will look at this issue. This thing is really affecting us. There are people that they go without food. Some go to bed without food because of this increase in prices of food that we are facing.
Okay, now.
The advice I will give the government is that they should look into all this problem. Most of, like people like us, we finish school since, but there is no employment. There are many people on ground that they don't have what to do. They are just walking on the streets. So we are pleading to the government so that they will at least look for job opportunity for people, and they should help us and see to all these things that are happening. If they will look at all these things and help us due to the increase of this fuel issue and bring it down, at least it will reduce some of the things that are high.
Agriculture, and even these people just leaving school now. If government should create a platform whereby they can secure loan to start farming business, there's so much they can do.
Government need to put machinery in place to monitor all its policies, not only in terms of food security. All government policy must be monitored so that the beneficiary will benefit from those policies. If not so, there are people that are ready in whatever capacity to curtail government effort.
Keep watching.
Keep watching. Keep watching NIPSS Policy TV.
It's new, it's fresh, it's all about policies and strategies. Watch out for NIPSS Policy TV programs on NTA News 24. Tune in on Mondays, Tuesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. on DSTV Channel 419, GoTV Channel 26, Star Times Channels 101 and 433, and Free TV Channel 703. Miss this and miss out on policies that will affect you and our country. Join us.
As a member of the National Institute, you are constantly supposed to be working, wherever you are placed, towards a better society. Today, our guest on Alumni Chat is Professor Liu Fua, MNI. He is a professor of political science with emphasis on international relations, and he is a certified international scholar. And he is a directing staff here at the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies. Thank you for joining us, Prof.
We're glad to have you, and thank you for finding time to talk with us.
You're welcome.
Okay, Prof. Okay, now, Prof, what was your experience when you were here for the senior executive course?
Wow, that's a long time ago. I came into the National Institute precisely February 1st, 2001. And in 2005, I had grown to be an associate professor, and I was nominated by then President Olusegun Obasanjo. I will satisfy some of the requirements the president thought was good for the National Institute. And at the age below 40, he instituted that I be nominated, and I was nominated in 2005. That cost 27. And since then, it has been wonderful. Being a participant at that time was something, I was about the second person in the National Institute to be nominated after the late Ademi, the librarian of the National Institute. And it was like homecoming, because then I was at the Defense Academy. I met late Joe Galba, the then DG, and he asked that I be sent to this institute. Not as if I applied then, but he found we argued on certain things in the UK. As a scholar, he asked, and I said, I'm ready to come down here. And so when I came, and after the nomination, it was like the beginning for me. I was then supposed to be the coordinator of the National Institute. But unfortunately, Jogaba passed on 6 months after my coming in here. Yeah, of blessed memory. And I moved on to be a senior fellow, and proudly an MNI.
Proudly so.
Yes, proudly so an MNI. And from then it was something I nursed and something I was happy about. But that didn't stop me from all these issues. I wasn't too proud about it. I felt it was a privilege for somebody like me to be nominated, while a lot of people across the country are looking for this prestigious MNI. Okay. And that gingered me up.
Okay. Prof, it's quite clear that you've gained a whole lot of experience. Now, how has the experience impacted on your person and your career?
Honestly, I would tell you it was something wonderful. Anywhere I enter, the mere sight of the badge makes you look unique. The mere sight of the badge makes you look unique. And it opened my life up. I started being called everywhere to talk. The NTA had been the NTA International has been one of my best, what do I call it, at that time, platform. Each now and then, national issues come up. I was invited to chat on certain issues, on national issues, on international issues. And I won't tell you that I'm not happy today. I have not seen what they call poverty in the classroom. You know, once they say you are a teacher, sometimes they see you as somebody who is not, who is just like that. And I started changing the image of even being a professor too, to show the world that, look, I have something to give. And I've imparted life. And what makes me so happy today is that since 2005 to this day, I have impacted the little that I have to how many sets today behind me. Today I'm talking about 23 years or so. And
does that make you the oldest?
I'm the oldest here because I'm 27, and everybody that is in NIPSS today, except for one barrister man who she is cost 17. And I get happy, but as a staff here, I'm the oldest staff and also the oldest MNI, and I impacted on even the MNIs that are now directing staff. They were all my students. And since then, things have been so well and so perfect that I just pray that we continue to impact knowledge and to impact what we have been given, because you cannot give what you don't have. So I have moved from there to become a Vice Chancellor of Bingham University from 2013 to 2018, January. And proudly so, brought up students. I moved on there. Today, everywhere in the world, I'm a global professor, not a national one. Everywhere today.
What is your philosophy of life?
Well, my philosophy of life is I don't fear fear, but I fear regrets. What I can do if I don't do it today, tomorrow it may hurt me. So the idea is that I don't fear fear, but I fear regrets. That I don't give you what you need now. I feel tomorrow will be too bad for me if I reflect and I see that I didn't do the right thing. So that had motivated me in all my doings. And the philosophy in life is that I should keep working while it's day. Because when the night comes, I can't work again. So I give what I have today. And I'm proudly so humble to say that if I see a participant that is an average person, I try to encourage. I try to put in more force in seeing that that person becomes who he is. I don't want to see somebody lagging behind. This is the philosophy of life I have.
What would be your take on the narrative that the ANI or the alumni is an elitist group?
This is a wonderful question. I don't want to see it in a bad manner, but I want to believe that since its inception some 45 years ago, we had the number, I'm not sure we are beyond, we are up to 2,500 as of count now. So it makes that an elitist group. But the elitist group is that what we have imparted on people wherever we find ourselves makes us a complete, how do I describe it? A class of elites that impact knowledge, not a class of elites that sits down to just distort whatever comes in. They call them guru mafia. I've not seen the mafia in it, but I've seen some way of imparting some knowledge. That is just what I would say.
Thank you, Professor Liu Fua, MNI. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. We really appreciate your time with us. We hope next time we come to you to talk about national issues, you avail us your time. Thank you indeed.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Thank you for watching Alumni Chat. Stay with us, there's still more on the program.
I am the businessman I am today because I scoured the world to find that feeling my clients want to wear. This country makes it its business to inspire at every moment.
Own your moments in South Africa this Easter holiday. Explore new holiday deals at southafrica.net. Come journey with us.
In conclusion, we cannot discuss national development without discussing monetary policy. It is the heartbeat of the nation's economy. When it is properly enforced, prices become stable in the market and the economy booms. That is all we have on the program today. Thank you for being part of it. Hope you have been enlightened and informed. Till I come your way again, I am Chana Ejoga. Goodbye.